Welcome to the BEC Lecture Series on Ethics, Values, and Spirituality in Business. This session explores how the values managers bring to their work, together with their personal sense of spirituality, can influence ethical decision-making. Those decisions are not isolated moments. Over time, they help shape organizational culture and affect real-world outcomes for employees, leaders, and the broader organization. The central idea is that ethical culture begins with the principles people use to make choices, especially when the right path is not always obvious. Every day, managers make decisions that affect far more than the immediate task. Their choices ripple across teams, customers, and the broader community. Ethics is not just a compliance checkbox. It is an invisible architecture of trust. When decisions fall short, the consequences can include a weakened workplace culture, damage to the organization's reputation, and legal exposure. That is why ethical decision-making matters. Before we can improve our choices, we first need to understand the forces that shape them, including the pressures, assumptions, and priorities behind every decision. Ethical decisions are rarely spontaneous. They follow a practical sequence that helps managers move from uncertainty to responsible action. First, recognize the issue by identifying a moral concern, not just a business problem. Next, apply both organizational and personal values as a guide. Then, evaluate the likely impact on all stakeholders, including consequences that may not be immediately visible. Finally, choose and act by making a responsible decision and putting it into practice. This framework creates consistency, strengthens accountability, and helps managers make defensible choices when pressure and competing priorities are present. Managerial values are the deeply held beliefs that shape how leaders set priorities, treat people, and respond to difficult choices. They act as an internal compass, often beneath conscious awareness, but they strongly influence behavior. These values operate at personal, professional, and organizational levels. When those levels align, decisions tend to be coherent. When they conflict, ethical stress can result. Four essential values are integrity, accountability, fairness, and transparency. Doing what we say, owning outcomes, treating stakeholders equitably, and communicating openly and honestly across the organization. This slide contrasts two ways values can shape managerial decisions. Instrumental values are tools for reaching an outcome, such as ambition, competence, or obedience. They can support effective goal pursuit, but when results become the only priority, they may also encourage ethical shortcuts. Terminal values, by contrast, are desired outcomes in themselves, including equality, happiness, and integrity. The key distinction is whether values are being used to achieve something or whether they define what is worth pursuing. Managers guided by terminal values are generally more principled and attentive to stakeholders. A manager's values influence far more than individual choices. They radiate outward, shaping team culture, performance expectations, and the ethical climate of the entire unit. What leaders value, organizations eventually become. Research consistently identifies tone at the top as the strongest predictor of organizational ethics, because employees watch what leaders prioritize, reward, tolerate, and correct. In that sense, leaders are always modeling the ethical standard, whether they intend to or not. Every decision sends a message about what truly matters, and those messages gradually define how the team behaves. Workplace spirituality is not about promoting a particular religion. It's about the deeper principles that shape how people understand their work and treat one another. Meaning and purpose can strengthen ethical consistency and help employees remain resilient when pressure rises. A strong sense of community also builds belonging and shared responsibility, making it harder to justify harmful choices. Finally, transcendent values, such as service, compassion, and stewardship, shift attention beyond personal gain and encourage decisions that support colleagues, the organization, and the broader community. This slide draws an important distinction between spirituality and religion in the workplace. Workplace spirituality is not religious practice or belief. It is a secular psychological orientation toward meaning, purpose, and interconnectedness. That means managers do not need to promote, accommodate, or impose any particular faith. Instead, They can support these dimensions by helping people connect their work to a meaningful purpose, treating employees with dignity, and making ethical expectations clear. The goal is a workplace culture where people can experience significance and connection, regardless of their personal beliefs. This slide highlights the intersection between personal values and a sense of purpose that extends beyond profit. When those two dimensions come together, they shape three important qualities in ethical leadership. Moral courage means acting on principle, even when the decision is costly or unpopular. Stakeholder empathy means genuinely considering the experiences of employees, customers, and communities, not just shareholders. And ethical consistency means behaving according to those same standards in public and private, whether circumstances are comfortable or demanding. Together, these qualities turn values into visible, reliable management behavior. Consider a manager asked to reduce costs by choosing lower quality supplier materials. The decision may be technically legal, but it could still harm end consumers. This is where managerial values and spirituality can shape responsible action. First, recognize the ethical dimension beyond the financial calculation. Then reflect. Does the choice align with personal values and the organization's purpose? Finally, respond by choosing the path that honors stakeholders, even when doing so creates a short-term cost. Ethical leadership means looking beyond what is permitted to what is right. The key takeaway is that ethical leadership is a daily practice, not a fixed trait. Values guide managerial decisions, while workplace spirituality connects those choices to meaning, community, and responsibility beyond the self. When both align, leaders build trust, strengthen ethical culture, and serve stakeholders over the long term.